Cameron Heyward's comments are combustible because they sit at the intersection of performance, perception, and timing, and the Steelers are a team where all three matter a lot. On paper, his case is straightforward. Last season, he produced at a high level, all-pro honors, double-digit impact plays, consistent snap counts. He's been a rock in Pittsburgh for more than a decade, and yet his pay, by his lights, doesn't match what he delivered. That's a perfectly reasonable complaint for any veteran who still plays at an elite level. The backlash says more about context than content. First, the timing. Heyward publicly raising contract expectations while camp is underway and while the team is navigating a high-profile offseason, major signings, new chemistry, big bets on the roster, triggers reflexive media and fan pushback. It looks self-interested in a moment fans equate with team building and sacrifice. If a younger player makes the same ask, it reads like ambition. When a veteran near the end of his peak does it, it's often portrayed as greed, even if the math is defensible. Pittsburgh's sports media ecosystem is unusually tribal. Longtime relationships with the franchise create a baseline sympathy for organizational decisions, and any perceived disruption elicits sharper criticism. Second, the negotiation leverage is complicated. Heyward is valuable on the field, but he's 36. Teams pay for present production weighted against future decline and contractual guarantees. The Steelers must balance paying a veteran market value with preserving flexibility to support the rebuild or retool around Aaron Rodgers and other offseason investments. Heyward's 2-year, $29 million extension already altered the team's books. The front office will be reluctant to rework long-term numbers in a direction that constrains them if there's any probability of diminishing returns. That calculus is why negotiations for aging stars frequently take hybrid forms. Short extensions, roster bonuses tied to play time, per game or per snap incentives, or 1-year prove-it raises rather than multi-year guarantees. Third, the optics of talk matter. Heyward is a leader and a locker room pillar. Many Steelers expect leaders to wield influence quietly, not publicly. That's not to say he's wrong to want compensation that reflects his value, but public talk about sitting out or being valued invites headlines that widen the rift between player and fan base. Media voices like Mark Madden and Doug Whaley are primed to frame such comments as betrayal, partly because hot takes make for attention, and partly because Pittsburgh's identity is built on grind, sacrifice, and continuity. For a city that worships blue-collar football, any hint that a veteran will choose money over team success provokes ire. So what are the realistic paths forward? 1, a negotiated short-term market adjustment. The team could give Heyward a 1-year boost via a roster bonus or a restructured base that pays him more in 2025 while keeping long-term exposure limited. That preserves cap flexibility and rewards production without committing beyond a short horizon. For Heyward, this buys another pay period at a higher number and the chance to prove durability. For the Steelers, it mitigates long-term risk. 2, an incentives-heavy deal tied to snaps, sacks, Pro Bowl, or All-Pro designations. This is functionally equivalent to paying for performance and protects the team if age catches up. It's a common compromise when the player is close to the edge of market value but still elite. 3, no new deal and a status quo that carries reputational costs. Heyward would either live with the current contract, press for a holdout, or, worst case for both sides, sour relations that affect morale. A holdout is a nuclear option that rarely helps a locker room midseason. It's damaging to fan relationships and to on-field cohesion. 4, an exit. Unlikely, but not impossible. A trade could surface if the team wants to reallocate resources, though trading a leader like Heyward mid-career is messy and would only happen if the front office concluded the long-term plan required a reset. What the Steelers should guard against is turning this into a personality war. Heyward's leadership, experience, and internal respect are real assets. The organization needs a public narrative that balances appreciation with pragmatism. Acknowledge his contributions publicly, commit to a good faith negotiation, and emphasize continuity in the locker room. Mike Tomlin has navigated heated moments before. His role is to de-escalate, to frame Heyward as a valued member of the team, and then to let the front office and agent figure the details out behind closed doors. For Heyward, there's also a reputational playbook. Shift the conversation from entitlement to partnership. Publicly emphasize team goals, offer to structure any raise around team success, and make clear his first priority is winning. That preserves leverage while neutralizing the me-first headlines that inflame fans. If he wants long-term validation, dominating another season and staying visibly involved in mentorship and community work will be as persuasive to the Steelers in the city as speechifying in camp. This situation is a classic microcosm of modern NFL economics. Veterans want market value, teams need roster flexibility, and fans demand loyalty. There's no morally pure side here, just trade-offs. The best outcome is calm pragmatism, a short, incentive-laden settlement that recognizes Heyward's 2024 excellence, keeps him invested in Pittsburgh's immediate ambitions, and preserves the team's ability to maneuver. If both sides act like professionals rather than gladiators, the controversy can be a speed bump rather than a rupture. If it escalates into a months-long public fight, Pittsburgh risks distracting a fragile roster just as the season begins. Cameron Heyward's candid comments at Steelers training camp have ignited a firestorm in Pittsburgh, and not just because he's a beloved veteran. When a 36-year-old defensive lineman publicly questions the fairness of his pay after an all-pro season, it forces a messy but inevitable conversation about value, timing, and team priorities. Heyward's numbers last season made a strong case: 8 sacks, 20 quarterback hits across 17 games, and an all-pro nod. For a player in his mid-30s, that's elite production. Yet his contract situation, a 2-year deal signed in September 2024 worth $29 million, an average of $14.5 million per year, now sits uncomfortably against the output. Heyward said he expected a different response from the organization after the way he played, and he made it clear he wants to be valued. That's a straightforward ask. What's complicated is the broader context. Pittsburgh's media reaction has been sharp. Voices like Mark Madden questioned Heyward's legacy because of the team's postseason shortcomings, essentially arguing that individual production doesn't automatically translate into franchise-altering success. Former front office figure Doug Whaley framed the issue as an agent and negotiation failure. Those takes reflect two running tensions in sports coverage: the impatience for championships and skepticism about players asking for more late in their careers. Both perspectives miss half the picture. On one hand, Heyward's point is legitimate. He's still playing at a high level and wants compensation that reflects that. Interior defensive linemen do not typically produce at this rate at age 36, and locker room leadership and off-the-field impact are real, though less quantifiable. On the other hand, age and the risk of decline matter. Teams have to weigh guaranteed dollars against the probability of diminishing returns and cap flexibility for the future. There are a handful of realistic outcomes here. The Steelers can double down, pay Heyward more, maintaining continuity and rewarding a franchise stalwart. That would be costly and might force other roster or cap sacrifices, but it would buy goodwill and keep a proven leader around the line. Alternatively, the team can hold firm and try to let the contract run its course, betting on Heyward's decline or choosing to invest elsewhere. A middle path, a short-term bridge with performance incentives, could be the most practical compromise, aligning pay with continued production. The public sparring between Heyward and local media is uncomfortable, but not unprecedented. Veteran stars have leverage and emotional stakes late in their careers. Teams must balance respect for those contributions with prudence and long-term planning. If handled poorly, the disagreement could become a distraction. If handled smartly, it becomes a negotiation both sides can sell to fans. For now, Heyward's